Good afternoon and welcome to the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners Budget Workshop agenda or meeting. And we will first start with a call to order here and a roll call. We are virtual today, so we will start with a roll call.
Kemp,
Here.
Cohen, Commissioner Cohen, Hagan,
Here.
Myers,
Here.
Overman,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
White.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. And I feel certain that we will be joined by Commissioner Cohen shortly. And with that, if we can now have our opening remarks by our County Administrator, Bonnie Wise.
Thank you, and welcome, Commissioners. I'm going to go through just a few quick remarks and then turn it over to Kevin Brickey to take you through the PowerPoint that you were provided. So today we're going to provide an overview of the fiscal year 22 budget, and we're going to discuss the timetable. Kevin, who is Director of Management and Budget, will provide a budget update and go through an analysis of both the countywide and the unincorporated area general funds. He'll discuss the revenues and also the services that make up each of those funds. And we thought it was important to go through this fundamental discussion for a better understanding of the distinction between the two funds. And the distinction will be further apparent as Kevin provides his 5-year pro forma projections for each fund. And the message you'll hear today is consistent from prior years. As we know, the unincorporated area general fund continues to be stressed, which, as you'll see, has been exacerbated by COVID. And some of this information we've provided in prior workshops, and we'll provide those updates accordingly and any new information on revenues as well. And the stress keeps us from adequately funding transportation needs, needed fire stations that are outlined in the Fire Rescue Master Plan, parks improvements that were outlined in that master plan, among other needed services. So we're not making any recommendations at this time, but we're going to show you a handful of scenarios to be illustrative of what impacts revenue and expense changes will have on balances. Kevin's also going to speak briefly about the American Rescue Plan, specifically the state and local fiscal recovery funds. And as you are aware from Tom's memo, on Monday, the Treasury Department did release and circulate those guidance for the use of these one-time funds. As staff, we're analyzing the guidance thoroughly. We're participating in calls with various organizations, including the National Association of Counties, the Government Finance Officers Association, and other national organizations. The county is expected to receive $285 million plus, which will be received half now and half in a year from now. And we did officially submit the required documentation to apply for those funds. If time permits today and you'd like, Tom Fessler, Chief Financial Administrator, is prepared to provide additional information about the American Rescue Plan dollars and the release guidance after Kevin completes his presentation. This information was not in your backup. We just have some general information in your backup because the information did just come out on Monday. And as I've shared with all of you, both publicly and privately, I'm so proud of our Hillsborough County employees and the work that's been done during this pandemic all throughout the county and the impacts we've made with the previously received CARES dollars. And with those dollars, our focus was on ensuring people were safe, they were fed, they were housed. We provided funds for local businesses, rental and utility assistance for individuals, assistance for nonprofits, food relief, and much, much more, all while continuing to provide the quality services our citizens rely upon, often in times in alternative creative fashions. So as we transition to the utilization of the new American Rescue Plan funds, we plan to make investment recommendations to the board for your consideration that are purposeful and strategic, and of course, consistent with the plan guidelines. And also, we pledge to you to continue to be transparent and forthright in our thought process in our reporting to you as well as to the public, and much more of that to come on the American Rescue Plan. So with that being all said, I'll turn it over to Kevin Brickety to go through the PowerPoint presentation.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Harry Cohen. I just wanted to let you know I was on.
Thank you so much. I was worried about you since we
Thanks.
talked about you getting on here just before we left.
Little technical difficulty, but all good. Thank you.
I understand. I've experienced that myself. We all have. So thank you. And with that, we'll move to Mr. Brickey. If you can give us our update.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you, Ms. Wise, for that introduction to our first workshop for the FY22, FY23 budget process. We're deeply involved in the process of constructing the recommended budget, looking at department requests. And I'm going to share the PowerPoint that was included in your package. And we'll proceed with that. To start out with, we thought we would talk about what the current budget, the FY21 budget, looks like. What are the revenues? What are the expenditure categories? What is the countywide general fund? What is the unincorporated general fund? And looking at the structure of those revenues and expenditures as well. The FY21 adopted budget is just over $7 billion. And this is a slide that looks at what funds that budget. These bars are current inflows of revenue. Ad valorem taxes are $1 billion. That's the largest single revenue of the current inflow of revenue. It accounts for 38% of revenue. Other areas in here are restricted revenues for specific purpose, such as the second bar, which is water wastewater fees. That's specifically to operate the water wastewater enterprise. That's 11.5% of total current revenues. And there are other restricted revenues in there as well. You see solid waste fees, surtax revenues, some fuel taxes, tourist development taxes. The revenues that are really the general revenues are the ad valorem taxes and some of the state shared taxes from the state shared 6% sales tax. These revenues support a wide range of activities in the county. The first 4 bars on this graph, the sheriff enterprise funds, which is water, wastewater, solid waste, healthcare services, and fire rescue, accounts for 45% of the expenditures on this slide. Not counting reserves, transfers, and capital projects. So in this case, the sheriff is 17% of these expenditures, fire rescue 7.2%, healthcare is 8.2%, and the CARES Act funding that Ms. Wise briefly mentioned that is supporting some of our response to the impact of COVID is not insignificant in FY21. It's almost 7% of total budgeted expenditures. Now, the area, again, where there's the most flexibility are our general funds. And in this case, looking at the countywide general fund versus the unincorporated area general fund. The countywide general fund funds services for all residents, whether they're in the unincorporated area or one of the 3 cities. There is a operating property tax millage to support the activities of the countywide general fund. It's 5.7309 mils, and it's assessed on all taxable properties. The countywide ad valorem property tax revenue for FY21 is $650 million. And that's millage is about $1,146 of property tax on a home with an assessed value of $250,000. The services that are supported by the countywide general fund, again, are services that are offered countywide in the unincorporated fund and in the cities. The sheriff is partially funded from the countywide general fund. That's primarily jail operations. There's some court operations as well. The clerk of the courts and other constitutional officers are funded from the countywide fund. The supervisor of elections, the elections are administered on a countywide basis. The tax collector, the property appraiser, and court operations. We have human services that's supported by the countywide fund, social services, conservation and parks. These are countywide operations. On the unincorporated fund, when we look at that, smaller parks and recreation is supported in the unincorporated area. Economic development for the benefit of the entire county. Affordable housing is funded from the countywide fund. Emergency management, a countywide responsibility in the countywide general fund. Medical examiner, pet resources, support services that support the whole county operation, my department, budget, human resources, procurement, etc. And the EPC, the Environmental Protection Commission. Again, those are operations and services for all in the county. Unincorporated area general fund, this is where services that if one lives in the city, it would be provided by the city. These are funds for the unincorporated area residents of Hillsborough County. And they mirror those provided to city residents by city millages and revenues. Sometimes it's said that if unincorporated Hillsborough were its own city, it would be one of the largest cities in the state. There are about 900,000 individuals, population in the unincorporated area. So it is a large responsibility. The property tax operating millage is 4.3745 mils on all unincorporated area properties. This millage is not paid by owners of property in the cities. That's about $875 on a home with an assessed value of $250,000. And in FY21, the millage gained the unincorporated area about $250 million, $300 million, pardon me. The city's millage, by comparison, is higher, and the three cities indeed are higher than our unincorporated millage. The city of Tampa's is 6.2 and some change, Plant Cities is above 5.7, and Temple Terraces is above 6.5. Again, the services that are provided are city-type services. The sheriff is funded from this fund as well. This is primarily for patrol operations, deputies, everyday law enforcement. Fire rescue to support the fire stations and rescue activities of that department. Parks and recreation, those are the non-county-wide parks. Those are not the regional parks. These are more to do with recreation and community neighborhood parks. Code enforcement, development services, public works. Many cities have these operations under their own auspices for their incorporated areas. So this is looking at the revenue that supports the countywide general fund. This is in the bars, the current inflows of revenue to the unincorporated area general fund. And by far, the biggest is ad valorem taxes. It accounts for nearly 87% of the revenue supporting countywide general fund services. Charges for services is 10%, with about $60 million of that from charges to other departments to support the services of support departments. Transfers, that $19.7 million is primarily revenue from the state shared half-cent sales tax. That's not one of our local option sales taxes. That's the sales tax that is shared from the state to cities and counties from its own 6% sales tax. And then after that, we have relatively smaller revenues, including interest and other state shared revenues, permits, fees, and fines, quite small. And then where is it spent? What does it support? What services are supported in the countywide general fund? The sheriff, again, these are jail operations and court operations for the countywide general fund, 43%. Other constitutionals are about 17%. So constitutionals, outside agencies combined, account for 61% of ongoing expenditures in the countywide general fund. And all the constitutionals and outside agencies are about $454 million compared to countywide ad valorem or property tax revenue of $650 million. That's 70%, represents 70% of ad valorem. Human services is about 7.5%. And there are a number of other operations. They're relatively small compared to the two large ones. Economic development activities, $30 million, affordable housing, $24 million, conservation and parks, $17 million, medical examiner, $7 million, emergency management, $6 million. The unincorporated area general fund, revenues look a little bit different, where in the countywide general fund, ad valorem accounted for 87% of inflows of revenues. Ad valorem or property taxes in the unincorporated fund is 66%. Still a significant majority, but those transfers in are much more important in the unincorporated area general fund. That's $87 million. $61 million of that is the state share half-cent that we spoke about. There's $12 million from the communication services tax, and another $6 million from revenue sharing, the guaranteed entitlement. And then there's also the $30 million towards the center of revenue sharing as well from the dollars that are not guaranteed, but we do get. So the unincorporated fund has a broader source of revenues that aren't as highly concentrated in property taxes, but certainly are still relatively concentrated there. What services, what activities are supported by the unincorporated area general fund? Again, here we have a very strong presence of public service type, public safety type of activities. Fire rescue is $200 million. Sheriff is $153 million. The fire rescue is 41% of the expenditures shown here, and the sheriff is 32%. So combined, we have 73% in that area of public safety. That's $352 million compared to the unincorporated area's ad valorem revenues of $300 million. So it exceeds the total amount of ad valorem, and thus puts more spotlight on the importance of those other revenues that support the unincorporated area general fund, the half-cent sales tax, state revenue sharing, the communication services tax. Very important. Parks is the next largest at 7.7%, the Transportation Trust Fund at 4%. Again, just very concentrated in public safety. This graph is looking at our capital improvement program, the FY21 to 25 capital improvement program, a 5-year plan. The first year is adopted as the budget. The outer years are a plan, and they are updated each year. The water enterprise is the largest, a little more than $1 billion. Transportation, $762 million. Government facilities, $174 million. And then we have some smaller ones, solid waste, 36 million, fire services, 35 million, library services, 31 million. It's important to note that a fair amount of the 5-year capital improvement program is budgeted in FY21 or is in the future years of the CIP, the capital improvement program, with financing. We have in the water enterprise, out of the $1.1 billion in the capital improvement program, $766 million of financing. Most of that is in future years, $613 million in future years, FY22 to 25, with $500 million in FY25 to support expansion of capacity in the water and wastewater program. The transportation CIP, we discussed that at the workshop in January, and we'll discuss more as we move forward. $762 million CIP, $190 million of it approximately will be financed with the new transportation bond, which was went to sale yesterday, and you'll be seeing a budget amendment, an agenda item to account for that. But there is another $298 million in the transportation CIP in current years and future years that are budgeted with short-term financing, which we don't have the ability or a funding source identified to repay that. And so there we are going to continue to discuss how to deal with that. In other areas, there's also financing. Those are bonds, government facilities, $79 million, parks, $70 million, solid waste, and fire services. Those are all issued bonds. We have reserves of about $1.7 billion. They're highly concentrated in a variety of restricted use funds. You see in our water and solid waste enterprise, we have about $430 million. The transportation surtax, $254 million. Of course, that is awaiting to be determined how to refund that. Our internal service funds are $236 million. Our indigent care is $102 million, again, restricted for that use. Other special purposes, $57 million. Debt service, restricted, $54 million. The reserves for the general fund are $274 million. And that's where we have more general reserves. That's 16.4% of the reserves. Restricted reserves account for about 82% of this $1.7 billion. The transportation reserves are related to the transportation bond. This graph looks at how our combined general fund reserves has fluctuated over the years. Here we're looking at the percent of reserves as a percentage of expenditures in the two general funds. The board a few years adopted a policy that in combination, the general fund reserves should be between 20 to 25% to support strong financial management and our AAA ratings. We received our first AAA rating in FY11, late FY10, early FY11. We've subsequently received AAA ratings from the two other agencies. The three agencies are Moody's, S&P, and Fitch. And recently, at the end of April, That AAA rating was reaffirmed by the rating agencies, even as we have experienced revenue difficulty with COVID, and we've been able to support those expenditures by not dipping into our general funds, and the rating agencies have recognized that. In FY21, our reserves are about 21.2% of expenditures. In the countywide general fund, reserves are 23%. In the unincorporated area, they are 18%. The 1% change in reserves equals about $12.9 million. And these are some comments that the rating agencies issued in their rating guidance to the public and to the financial world in late April. Fitch mentioned that the county has sound policies in place that support a strong financial operating profile. The county's AAA ratings reflect low long-term liability and strong financial performance, maintaining high reserve levels even through periods of severe economic volatility. And that was noted as we spoke to these rating agencies. S&P noted very strong management with strong financial policies, strong budgetary flexibility and available fund balance, which is related to reserves in a strong way. And S&P also noted that our general obligation bonds are eligible to be rated above the sovereign, which would be the United States government, because the S&P believes the county can maintain a better credit characteristics than the U.S. in a stress scenario. So we were pleased to see that comment. And S&P also notes that Hillsborough County maintains a strong and diverse and expanding economy, which again supports our strong financial profile. And these AAA ratings do have benefits. Certainly having a AAA rating is a good signal of strong financial management, but it also is grants us the ability to borrow at lower cost to finance projects. So it gives us a greater borrowing ability, but it also saves on debt service, saves the taxpayer dollars. And it is also important in economic development and business relocations and expansions. Businesses do pay attention to these ratings as an indicator of the overall economic and financial health of a community. And so we're pleased that that continues even in the crisis of COVID that we've been moving through. And speaking of COVID and its impacts, the next three slides take three major revenues as examples to show what COVID-19's impacts on our revenues have been. This is our state shared half-cent sales tax. And in FY19, our actual revenue was $114 million. We had budgeted and expected in FY20 to receive about $118 million. That budget was constructed before the COVID impacts. And of course, by this time last year, there were severe impacts on sales taxes. They were down about 25 to 30%, and we finished the year $110 million. So we were $8 million under our budgeted amounts. And then for FY21, that budget was built in the spring and summer of last year and adopted in September of last year. And we were still in the midst of not knowing the trajectory of COVID-19 and its impacts. And we took a view that our revenues would be still negatively impacted. And we adopted a budget for FY21 of this revenue of $103 million. That last bar, the solid orange bar, that is what we think we would have been able to expect if COVID had not happened. $121 million. So there's a difference of about $18 million. Now, how is this revenue actually performing? It's performing a little bit better than what we budgeted so far. We have through about 5 months of this year, our revenue in the state shared half-cent sales tax is up about 2% over the same period. We have similar experiences with our surtaxes, our community investment tax, and our indigent care surtax, following similar patterns. There are 4 fuel taxes that we have: the 9-cent fuel tax, which is 1 cent, the 6-cent local option, which by its name is 6 cents. And then we have the constitutional fuel tax, which is shared by the state, that's 2 cents a gallon. And we also have the county fuel tax shared by the state, that's 1 cent a gallon. This is our 9-cent fuel tax, which is 1 cent. And it shows a similar pattern where we budgeted for FY20 an expected increase over FY19, and our loss due to COVID's impact was about $1.7 million, $0.8 million, pardon me. We expected a small increase in FY21 as people would drive a little bit more, but not as large as what we would have expected without COVID. This revenue is actually performing a little bit worse than we expected for FY21 over the first 5 months. It's down about 9%. The other fuel taxes are performing similarly. But as more and more start to return to their places of work, we think this fuel taxes and the 4 fuel taxes will recover some and finish more closely to what we budgeted and expected for FY21. Now, our tourist taxes, as a share of the whole, suffered perhaps the greatest declines due to COVID. We have 6% tourist taxes. These taxes support Visit Tampa Bay, the Convention Center, nonprofits related to tourism, and debt service for sports facilities. So these are important revenues for our operations and help us to maintain a higher profile in the tourist world. In FY19, this tax was garnered us $42 million. We budgeted $42 million in FY20. We had a decline of about 40%. $29 million was our actual revenue. And we expected that decline to continue in FY21. We budgeted $23 million. Without COVID, we think it would have been about $43 million. And in the first 6 months of FY21, we are down 25% still from FY20. Although we think that we may finish the year a little bit ahead of where we have budgeted, but still we're in an area of being down about 25%. Now, these are important examples of revenues. These are 3 major revenues. There are impacts in other revenues as well. And it's important as we look at this, and this is a look at all of our major revenues. Again, the community investment tax, indigent care surtax, fuel taxes, tourist development taxes. All told, in these major revenues, we finished FY20 about $70 million below what we had budgeted, impacts due to COVID. The American Rescue Plan, as we'll talk about in a few slides, provides for revenue replacement, that those funds can be used for that. The calculations will be complex and not in this fashion where we're looking at compared to budget. But for us, the $70 million is an important figure. There are other revenues that suffered, user fees like park entrance fees, animal fees, other smaller revenues compared to these. But on these large ones, a $70 million impact was certainly a serious impact. This slide is showing different COVID-related grants and anticipated reimbursements that we'll receive as a result of these activities. The CARES Act, as you know, we received this about last year, this time, $257 million. Those dollars are largely spent on a variety of citizen and business support services and a direct response to COVID, and will be expended by the end of this year when those funds expire. We have a disaster fund where we have funded direct FEMA type reimbursements. We've funded vaccinations, testing, PPE, that sort of thing from that fund. We've spent about $35 billion. And we are happy to say that we expect 100% of those eligible expenses to be reimbursed by FEMA, by the federal government. Our departments have received a number of other smaller COVID-19 grants of about $37 million. Those are very specific and targeted. Our emergency rental assistance program, we received $32 million. And then the American Rescue Plan, when this slide was devised and sent out, we expected $285.5 million. We're actually received notice from the U.S. Treasury on Monday that it's $285.9 million, $400,000 more. And we have already submitted our request for disbursement of those funds. So all told, about $647 million of COVID-related grants and reimbursements. The American Rescue Plan, at a high level and regarding its eligible uses, the Treasury has said that it's to respond to public health emergency with respect to the COVID-19 or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, or to aid impacted industries such as tourism, travel, hospitality. It does provide premium pay of up to $13 an hour to eligible municipal or county workers performing essential services to respond to COVID-19. It's capped at about $2,500 per eligible worker. Eligible use is to provide government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency, and also to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. The Treasury on Monday did issue some more guidance. It's quite extensive and complicated. We're working our way through it to understand it. The revenue replacement particularly has a number of calculations and estimations that would need to be done to figure out exactly what sort of revenue replacement opportunities we would have. As we move forward in looking at how to use the American Rescue Plan, we're considering that there's three high-level guiding principles that would guide us. One is that the ARP, the American Rescue Plan funds, are temporary. They really need to be focused on non-recurring expenditures. We need to be cautious about starting programs that would require an ongoing financial commitment that would last longer than these funds, because these funds are being dispersed in two tranches or two periods. Half will be available likely this month, and the other half will be available 1 year from now. So that 285 will be available in about 140 million tranches each period. But after that, the funding expires. We want to be aware of community funding and to be open to partnering. We want to be aware that there are other programs out there that have important initiatives to respond to COVID-19 and related activities, where we want to target these funds where we don't have that type of duplication. We also want to consider there are partnerships out there that we can have with other agencies. And we also are taking our time to consider these uses, particularly as the federal guidance takes time to consider its implications. We're involved with a number of professional agencies, such as the Government Financial Officers Association, NACO, and others, and follow their efforts to also understand the guidance and the complexity surrounding the use of the American Rescue Plan funds. We think some possible uses, again, is revenue recovery. That's going to be calculated at a aggregate level, not on a level of an individual program or an individual tax or revenue. Reserve stabilization, tourism recovery, septic to sewer efforts, broadband, capital projects that would meet the Treasury guidance. Some fall outside the Treasury guidance, some will fall within. We need to understand that more, and we're working towards that. There we have some deferred infrastructure maintenance that would be related as well. Emergency management needs, premium pay, as was discussed, community support, economic incentives that would fit with Treasury guidance, and safety initiatives. Those are some high-level areas that we're considering. Now to turn to where we are in the budget process for the general funds. This is looking at changes that we are expecting or are aware of as of now for FY21 moving into FY22. This is the countywide general fund. We're expecting our ad valorem to increase by about $21 million. That's a 3.4% increase. What's important there is that in recent years, we've been having 9 to 10% growth and about $50 million of new ad valorem revenue in the countywide general fund. So we're expecting about a third of that this year. Still positive growth, but not the 9 or 10% that we've been experiencing recently. This is due to the fact that COVID has impacted business. There are vacancies created by business closures and contractions. Business income is down. So we expect, and the state expects, even in their forecasts, that we'll experience a decline in non-residential values of about 6% in FY22. On the other hand, the housing market is still doing very well. Housing prices are up about 10 to 15%, depending on the measure you use for 2021 values, which will feed into FY22. So it is a constraining result to expect $21 million for FY22 compared to the experience we've had of $40 to $50 million of new revenue in recent years. We have some carry forward one-time funds of about $18 million. Those are usually a result of higher returns of funds from constitutional officers at the end of the previous fiscal year. So we have about $39 million of additional funds in the countywide general fund. And we know there are some increases that we can expect, constitutional increases of about $10 million, employee compensation, which includes FRS, Florida Retirement System rates, about $4.5 million, our tax increment financing liability rises as property values rise. We have operating impact from new facilities. We have contract renewals that occur and sometimes occur at higher rates. And we also have equipment replacement, reserve maintenance in order to maintain the 20 to 25% reserves, technology maintenance. So all told, those are about $27 million, leaving about $12 million available. And that's really in this fund available for primarily one-time uses. And we're looking at that compared to department requests that we have of about $21 million. We had in our instructions when two departments earlier this year, we did mention that we were expecting slower growth in revenues and to expect that the opportunity to expand service beyond current levels was very limited. Then in the unincorporated area, a similar picture on the revenue side, slower growth due to the negative impacts on commercial values, 3.3% or $9 million. Last year, the unincorporated fund ad valorem grew about 9 or 10%, and that figure was $23 million. So we have less than half of that in new money this year. We do have some gains in state shared revenues from state shared half-cent sales tax and county revenue sharing, about $13.6 million. Some one-time funds carrying forward for a total of $28 million. And then we have some similar uses that we are already anticipating and know will occur. $5.3 million increase in constitutionals. Here, this reflects the fact that the sheriff submitted a budget that was conservative for FY22. A few years ago, the sheriff embarked on a effort to increase deputies by 59 a year. Last year, as COVID was impacting us, the sheriff did forego the opportunity to add 59 new deputies in FY21. The sheriff again submitted a budget request for FY22 that forgoes those 59 new deputies. And the sheriff has indicated that his office will revisit that for FY23. So that is a important area of expenditure. 59 new deputies. The expense of that is about $7 or $8 million, and so that is a large help in this year of constrained revenue growth. We have similar other areas on this graph, operating impacts of new facilities, contract renewals, etc., totaling about $18 million, leaving $10.5 million to be considered among department requests, which total about $39 million, split between one-time and recurring. Parks requests are about $10 million. So as we move towards building our recommended budget, we'll be considering those department requests among these restraints. And then there is the pro forma. As Ms. Wise mentioned, we'll go through the pro forma, looking at a 5-year projection of the two general funds. We talked about taxable values. That's very important for these two funds, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation. They are being modeled again at a slower rate, 3.4% compared to previous 9 to 10%. Taxable values in FY23, the state forecast to rise about 5%, still constrained. In outer years, FY24 to 26, we are modeling the 20-year average annual growth rate of about 5.7%. On the expenditure side, most non-personnel costs are modeled to rise by the combined rate of population and inflation, about 4.7%. Most personnel wage costs are modeled to rise about 3%. FRS rates are rising 4 to 7%, depending on class in FY22. We're continuing to model the $10 million of annual funding for affordable housing from the countywide general fund. The constitutional increases we talked about, relatively restrained for FY22. Again, the sheriff is foregoing the plan for 59 new deputies in 22. Now, the model does include 59 new deputies in the outer years, FY24, 25, and 26. That effort would resume. The sheriff has certainly indicated a desire to resume that in future years. The pro forma includes no ad valorem for transportation capital funding, and the baseline model includes no new fire stations. This is the result of the baseline model. What this is showing is the balance of each fund. The gold is the balance of the countywide fund. The green is the balance of the unincorporated fund. And by balance, what I mean is after accounting for all revenues and sources and subtracting all expenditures and uses, what is the bottom line result? It's either a deficit or a surplus, or it could be roughly balanced at zero. The baseline model here shows the countywide general fund in surplus through the years, and the unincorporated fund having a small surplus in FY22, but moving to a deficit in outer years. Now, it's important to realize that this model is an estimate, it's a forecast. It's not so important what each number is every year, but what's important is the direction, the magnitude. Is the direction surplus or deficit? Is the surplus or deficit relatively large or relatively small? Because each year, of course, we have to adopt a balanced budget. What this model does is take current expenditure experience along with known decisions that have already been taken for expenditures, puts that into the model, and then compares it to our best estimates of where revenues are going to go, what the trajectory of revenues are. And then these surpluses and deficits flow through each year, they move forward and accumulate. This is the baseline model, and again, it does not include any additional new fire stations, doesn't include new parks in the later years, doesn't include any ad valorem for transportation CIP, but it does include the new deputies in FY24, 5, and 6. So this graph shows the unincorporated fund continues to be under stress, which is the result we've had over the last number of years, where the unincorporated fund that has been experiencing population growth, that's been experiencing greater demands on public safety, and previously on transportation, was having some difficulty keeping up with those demands. Whereas the countywide fund was in better shape in that it was more able to sustain itself, but not with a lot of service expansion. And small changes can cause these deficits or surpluses to change pretty dramatically. And the next slides, we're going to look at some scenarios as to if this happened, what would the result be on these surpluses and deficits. As Ms. Wise mentioned, these are not recommendations, they're just scenarios to see what these impacts could look like. if they happened. Now, one thing that's important that before I move from this slide, when I say no new fire stations, the fire rescue master plan that was devised a couple of years ago showed the need for 26 new fire stations. We did fund 2 new fire stations in FY20 and they're opening. So that leaves still about 24 fire stations desired from that master plan. They are not included in this baseline pro forma. This is an example if we had faster growth in later years of 6 to 6.2% compared to 5.6%. Again, it doesn't make too much difference. The countywide fund still is in surplus. The unincorporated fund is still stressed. Moving back to the baseline just to reset our mind as to our comparison. This is if we had a increase in the unincorporated millage of 0.25 mils in FY22 and through the 5 years. Here, the 0.25 mils results in no change in the countywide area, but does result in the unincorporated area showing small surpluses in FY25, but returning to a small deficit in FY26. Remember, in those outer years, the new deputies are coming online. But again, even though this does cause the unincorporated fund to look better, it still is without new additional fire stations or parks or ad valorem for transportation. Again, this is a scenario, not a recommendation. If millage were increased by 0.4 mils, not in FY22, but in FY24, it's a similar picture. It does change the unincorporated fund to a roughly balanced over those 5 years. But the increase in millage needs to be higher because it occurs later, but it's still without new additional fire stations or parks or ad valorem for transportation. This graph considers what if we swapped 0.1 mils between the two funds. So what that means is that the countywide millage would be reduced by 0.1 mils, and the unincorporated millage would be increased by 0.1 mils. So if one were in the unincorporated area, the net change in property taxes would be 0. But if one were in one of the cities, then in the city, one would benefit from the 0.1 millage reduction, but there wouldn't be the offsetting increase because the cities do not pay the unincorporated millage. Here, because of that difference, the countywide loss from 0.1 mils is $11.7 million. The unincorporated gain is $7 million. So there's an overall $3.7 million loss in revenue. This does benefit the unincorporated fund, but again, it benefits it without new fire stations or parks or transportation. And that one small reduction of 0.1 mils really puts the countywide fund in a more or less balanced position over that 5 years, but it's rather razor thin. So there's not a lot gained from swapping or exchanging 0.1 mils between the two general funds. And it certainly places the countywide fund in a more precarious position. This is again back to the baseline to reset our view. And this one looks at 2 new fire stations in FY22. $12.4 million to construct, and operating costs of about $5.8 million starting in FY23. That increases the deficits in the outer years for the unincorporated fund rather strongly, but it's still, it emphasizes that stress on the unincorporated fund, and just 2 new fire stations that causes the outer year deficit to rise from $96 million to $126 million. But that's 2 out of 24 additional fire stations that the master plan envisions, but still no new parks, no ad valorem for transportation. This one scenario, the pro forma, includes the 2 new fire stations, but looks at the question of, well, what would need to be the increase in millage if one were to decide to increase millage to cause the unincorporated fund to be in rough balance over this period. And that's about 0.35 mils in FY22. But again, that's just 2 new fire stations, not 26. So this again illustrates the stress that the unincorporated fund is experiencing. It stresses the relative better picture in the countywide fund, but that even that is can be upset fairly easily. And so there are budget challenges. We talked about how this pro forma model did not include general fund ad valorem funding for transportation. This graph looks at our recent years of general fund funding for transportation, particularly after the board adopted the 10-year funding commitment in September of 2016. It increased quite a lot for transportation capital in FY17, from 0 in FY16 to 23 million by revenue growth. But by we had our growth was relatively high, but not accelerating. In 2020, we approved the 2 fire stations. Fire rescue added 49 new staff. There was also this crossing guard program that the began to the so these changes caused course that's on the unincorporated fund, and in order to we did reduce the amount of to transportation. The board suspended commitment. It was a similar experience. The 2 new fire stations were being built, and the for those fire stations, and then other costs and other important initiatives in the unincorporated fund that needed attention. And again, that policy was suspended. We had about $4.8 million of general fund funding going to transportation. In FY22, we anticipate no general funds going into transportation. So we have the long-term challenge of our transportation capital improvement program. We've been discussing that with the board for a little while now. We certainly have a workshop coming up on May 26th to continue that discussion. The other challenges continue to be the master plan for fire rescue, parks, conservation, the plan for courts. We have growth and law enforcement requirements, just generally maintaining our service levels relative to growth. calendar begins with that May 26th workshop. We'll continue the discussion about the funding challenges in transportation. On July 14th at your regular board meeting, County Administrator will recommend it to you. On July 29th, we'll have our budget reconciliation workshop. You'll begin to make this amended budget and also very quickly do the first taxes. You'll set the initial abilities, and in September we'll have the 2 public hearings that are required by state law. On September 8th, you'll have the tentative budget millage. 23rd, the final budget millage. The September 8th date is changed from what we had anticipated earlier. We had anticipated September 9th, but the school board has chosen that date. And so we needed to, by state law, change it to a different date. So we have September 8th. There are also an MBE workshop coming up. And there's always the opportunity to schedule other workshops or public hearings as the board deems necessary and desires to go forward in the budget process. So with that, I'm happy to take questions or comments. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for that presentation. That was before we take the questions, I'll just say again, I've said this earlier today. I think that was best, most comprehensive budget analysis and information that this board has ever been given. It was very, very comprehensive. But as you all know, I've spent 4 years asking for distinctly separating these budgets and educating the board and, you know, us to kind of take hold of it and understand how desperate the needs are between our unincorporated budget that has looked to me since I was elected a commissioner as if it was crashing, and our countywide budget that's quite substantial, but to also be able to differentiate for our new board members and the public and everyone else, just kind of the way these 2 budgets work in tandem. So thank you for a really, I think, excellent job in ordering that end and presenting. Thank you. That Commissioner White, who I know has had his hand up for a while.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I have a litany of questions for staff. Mr. Bricky, you talked about fire station building in terms of ad valorem funding, but what will the increase in fire rescue impact fees mean in terms of building new stations over that period of years?
Certainly, the fire impact fee will help with building new fire stations. The 2 new fire stations that were shown were about $12.6 million to build. Accumulated rescue impact fee at the end of the year would allow about $4 to $5 million of that funded with impact. So certainly the ability to find funding to build stations is made easier with the fire impact fees. For unincorporated operators, with about $2.75 to $3 million for each station, and over 25 stations would be a very large number, getting towards $60 million. So the capital costs often can be managed. It's the ongoing operating costs that present a challenge, particularly for the unincorporated area fund.
Right. And that's a great segue into the commentary that I'd like to make on the fact that we're 27 fire stations behind. That's certainly not the current board's fault, not the current administration's fault. That stands sure many boards, many administrations, but to me, it's surprising that at some point in time that county commission didn't have the red flag raised that, they were 5 stations behind and 10 stations behind and 15 stations behind. And now here we are, 27 stations behind the 8 ball. So I'll ask the current administration to just, be on the watch for things like that. Not only as it relates to fire rescue, but, in terms of anything that we're on to please raise the red flag. We're alerted. Mr. Bricky, for budgeting purposes, do we consider sales tax revenues to be recurring revenue?
Tax revenues are recurring revenues.
Okay, so with respect to the new that's going to be allowed under the American, the second round is called the American Rescue Act, is that right?
American Rescue Plan, correct.
The American Rescue Plan. So given sales tax revenues are recurring dollars, are we able to extrapolate the projected loss of sales tax revenue over a number of years and then use those American Rescue Plan dollars to replace the dollars based upon, that extrapolation over many years, say over a 3-year period?
The period is 2 or 3 years,
Okay.
and it does allow for extrapolation. The important thing is, and we're really looking into these details, is that the extrapolation is based on an aggregate level, the sum of all recurring general revenues. The Treasury is not offering the opportunity to target revenue A, what is that? Revenue B, what is that? Revenue C, that it's the sum. And so, that guidance come out, and we're working to understand how that will impact our calculations and our expectations.
Okay. I for one, think that we should take advantage of the ability to extrapolate. Staff already planned on doing so, but I'd really like to to replace our revenues with the understanding that we're not just behind the 8 ball in 2021. This is going to have a lasting effect. So have you had a chance to do an analysis on the amount of the American Rescue Plan dollars that might be used specifically for road and sidewalk work?
Not yet. No, we're still, we received the high level guidance. There's still some questions that Treasury needs to answer, and we will be looking at those details, but we have not done that analysis as yet. Okay.
And if my memory serves me correctly, we can use county-wide revenues for road work if a county road traverses city limits. Is that right?
Generally speaking,
let's say a major county arterial road.
For county roads that are located within incorporated areas, we can certainly use county-wide funds. For county roads that sort of straddle, then some sort of proration would need to be considered.
Okay.
As to what the appropriate countywide contribution could be.
Okay. I just want to put I know this is only a workshop, but I just want to put, my 2 cents worth on the record, that I would like to see, if I recall correctly, we're looking at a surplus of around 20 million in the county-wide fund and 10 million in the unincorporated fund this year. That's before all the departmental requests, though, correct?
That's correct. Those balances you mentioned were after known commitments, contract increases, that sort of thing, but before consideration of those department requests.
Okay. I, for one, this year would like to see the departmental requests and go through them with a fine-tooth comb, because I would like to see as much of the 20 million, and frankly, I'd like to see all of the 10 million in the unincorporated fund go towards road and sidewalk projects. But I am mindful of the fact that these numbers are before any departmental requests. So I'd like to take a look at those and do an analysis. And I think you've answered my final question in your presentation, but I just want to be sure it doesn't look like any sort of a millage swap in any way, shape, or form is going to correct the issue with the projections with the countywide and unincorporated funds. Is that right?
I think that's accurate, Commissioner, because the one that I showed was only 0.1 mils, and
Right.
it didn't really change much on the unincorporated side. But it did leave the countywide fund in a more precarious position.
Right, absolutely. Okay, that answers my questions for now. I know that, we'll have one-on-ones with staff. Sounds like at least one more workshop, and then we'll head into the hearings. But I definitely would like to see all of those departmental requests this year, though.
Very good.
So, something that hits the high-level points is fine. If you need to, if getting in the weeds would involve you bringing me a binder that's, 12 inches thick, you can just hit the high level points with me.
I think a summary can be done.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Overman, you recognize.
Thank you. And thank you, Kevin, and the entire team for putting together a really excellent presentation. There's a couple of observations that I've been trying to sort through over the last couple of years in looking at our budget, but also really looking at where we are right now economically is an important part of your projections and the decisions that we make, not only immediately, but also looking to the future. So a couple of things, the difference between the city's millage rates and our unincorporated millage rates, it looks like it's about 1.356, if I did the math correctly, on average, say between City of Tampa and unincorporated. And if you look at the list of services that are, specifically for unincorporated, not countywide, but unincorporated, those are services that we're providing, that we are providing to citizens that are much more in a much greater way, expecting services at an urbanized level. And so that became readily obvious when I talked with waste services, and the cost of picking up the trash, and the enterprise funds are looking for a lot more resources because of the cost of providing water and wastewater services in those areas. And granted, those are enterprise funds and they are paid for with budgets that we've anticipated to expect. But, fire safety is not one of those. Just because you live in the county doesn't mean you don't want somebody to show up at your house. And federally required, we're supposed to have the capacity for providing fire services in one way, shape, or another. If we're not going to have volunteer fire services in the rural areas, and if we're going to provide those services, we've got to provide them within the guidelines. And 26 or 27 stations shy of how we've grown isn't sustainable. It just is. It's not within the safety measures that I believe our citizens expect, that our fire rescue folks, want to feel in the way of pressure. And so we do have to address the revenue that it takes. Now, we've done that, as was mentioned earlier, in the impact fee for new stations, but we haven't addressed the deficit. Similar to Commissioner White's concerned about not addressing the deficit in the transportation planning and not having the money to fix the roads and resurfacing and safety issues that we'd like to see. So, you know, I'm kind of torn. You know, we want to know that we've got these financial walls we're about to bump into, but we really haven't, other than impact fees increases and some level of service increases, we really haven't addressed the elephant in the room. And that's the difference between what we're providing in the way of municipal services at an urbanized level, but not so in the unincorporated areas. So I do think it's important for us to recognize that. Also, with the rescue dollars and the CARES dollars, I think it's important to recognize that none of the dollars that I can discern, with the exception of 2 places, and I'm putting on my affordable housing hat on, by the way, none of those dollars or none of the monies within that plan are specifically used for creating affordable housing. Now, with the exception of shared housing or temporary housing or housing that's designed to give someone a stable place to be until they are able to move from homelessness to home secure, when inventories in Hillsborough County are able to meet that need. For example, purchasing hotels and converting them into living spaces or shared spaces, shopping centers that may be, you know, commercial now, but aren't really best used and converted into immediate shared housing. Those are some dollars that could possibly be utilized in the American Rescue Plan to address our affordable housing needs. However, the Sadowski Trust funds that we've used to complement what the county has committed to in the way of affordable housing dollars has been slashed by the legislature by about a little more than 50%. And 25 of that 50% that's no longer available for Hillsborough County to utilize to create affordable housing is for wastewater service, you know, septic to sewer type, and for sea level rise, so our environmental areas. So what I'd like to ask staff to help me understand is, given that half of the money that I needed for affordable housing is going to other purposes, which we also have a deficit in our revenues for meeting those needs, and we're allocating budgets for those particular services or financing it in terms of capital improvement, have we incorporated those funds, assuming the budget is signed on, you know, by the governor, that have we allocated those funds that are going to go to the 2 things that were swept away from our dock stamp revenue that we are a donor county of? Have we used those dollars as a means of helping offset those costs so they could possibly be utilized in the unincorporated budget? I think that's I don't have the math to do it, and I'd really like to make sure that we've addressed that concern. But the other issue is more important long term. I recently received a letter from the Greater Tampa Realtors with details on the real estate market as it stands right now in Hillsborough County. And if you don't mind, it's easier if I just read it to you, not all of it, but read it to you rather than try and summarize it, just to make sure I get it correct. It says market overview, and this was based on the Elliott Eisenberg's study of the housing market, and it was based on the March 2021 Florida Realtors data. It talked about median prices for both single-family homes and townhome condos reached an all-time high of $315,000 and $215,000. That's for a single-family home and then condos or townhomes. Average prices of single-family homes are also at a record high of $402,089. And while not at a record, the townhome condo price is $286,440. all of those prices, with the exception of the condo, and I'm just sort of putting these numbers in perspective, with the exception of the townhome condo all-time high number of 215, all of those price points exceed any of our first-time home buyer program or any affordable housing dollars available to assist someone in purchasing a home. So our median home prices in Hillsborough County exceed anything that we're able to do on an affordable housing level with helping individuals get in their own home. The only way we can address this is to create supply by being able to build affordable housing. The letter went on to say, sales of multifamily properties were up 31.6% over the last year, while single-family sales rose by a strong 11.6%. New listings of single-family homes were down a slight 1.7%, while townhomes and condo listings were down slightly larger than 5.9%. Inventories plummeted compared to last year, with single-family levels down 67.4% last year, and multifamily inventories were down 68%. So there is nowhere to put the growth numbers that we're talking about, in our comprehensive plan meetings, and we talk about all these people moving here, and we've got to build the infrastructure. But right now, there's no inventory for any additional persons, with the exception of increased price points, which actually, for a new homeowner, increases the tax revenue because it's a new purchase. We end up with a new market value for calculating out ad valorem. So I think it's important to recognize where we really are when there's only 1,636 properties on the market in Hillsborough County right now. There's no inventory out there. So I need affordable housing dollars as much as we can, but not just so much because I'm focused on affordable housing. It's because we have a problem. And part of it is we don't have the revenues to be able to provide urbanized level of services with an ad valorem where it is, or the revenues that we have. And that is creating a great deal of demand for living here, but we have nowhere for people to live when they get here. And the people living here don't have anywhere to go. So we've got to be smart about how we plan for this. And I mean, I'll stop here, but there is one additional plan that the Biden administration is taking a look at, does include potential plans for infrastructure dollars for transportation and affordable housing. And while it hasn't been approved yet or gotten through Congress, I think it's important to kind of take a look at that too as we work through these workshops. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, at some point we've had other conversations about affordable housing. I actually think part of what's causing that pressure is as I understand, two major corporations have bought up somewhere near 10,000 homes in Hillsborough County, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, in where good schools are, and buying it out from under of people that want it, and pay cash and everything else. So I think that might be a in some ways an unsolvable problem as long as that is there. But at any rate, I know that you're Ms. Wise not looking you want to know more about how we are going to make these and I'm glad to have this all outlined. I mean, what we're seeing is what has been happening, which is a crushing deficit in our unincorporated fund source, which I call the city of unincorporated county. And that's how I like to think about it. And that's what, that's what this county commission's responsible for as far as that goes. And again, I think it's so important that you made these distinctions about what the, how the funds are, the countywide fund versus the unincorporated fund and what they generally fund and how they're doing. And I thought it was, for me, very illuminating to see some of the various scenarios, like the 0.25 mils and how that shifted. And I'm glad that you finally showed just how it shifted if there was a swap, which I never could see could come to any fiscal benefits to have a swap between the countywide and unincorporated funds. As Commissioner Overman pointed out, the unincorporated or the incorporated funds for the city of Tampa and Temple Terrace and Plant City are quite a bit higher than we charge in our unincorporated here for them to operate their cities. Our mills are a lot fewer than they have. So I thought it was very interesting to see that and note that. As to the, and I know, and I immediately grasped onto the impact fee with the fire stations, and I've never quite had those figures. So that was really interesting for me to see. We were collecting for 35 years, $250,000. The latest number we had before we raised our impact fees, $250,000 a year for our fire stations. Raising our impact fees garnered, I believe, about $2.5 million a year. So when you said something like 5 million or change was like about 2 years of savings, and that and it looks like these fire stations cost about 6 million apiece, and we're talking about 2 new fire stations. So I think it's just interesting that even our new impact fees, I think we might have to get, at least with fire, I always wondered, get those looked at again at this point, because, I don't see how that works for when we do need new fire stations, that kind of metric. It seems like we should at least be able to pay the capital on that. But as you pointed out, the big issues with these are the operating costs, because those are continuing for the 2 fire stations that cost 12 million. We can do the capital, but the continued operating costs, and I imagine part of the capital is the fire engines, but the one we recently bought out in Fishhawk, I think cost $1 million for the single fire engine. I don't know how long they last for before they have to be replaced, and if they're considered in the operating or in the capital after time. But you have like somewhere near $6 million a year for these 2 stations and continued operating costs, always adding on to this very constrained, crashing budget. And so I think I'm just looking at what we saw here, and I've always, just by putting our heads in the sand and not acknowledging this before, which I felt like we haven't in the past, I think it's very good to lay it out here. I don't know what we do exactly about the deficits we have, both in infrastructure as well as in our budget for the future. This is an education, and one that I think we really need to understand going forward. I don't know in terms of when we get out what we can, when we find out what the departments are asking, what other things are out there, how much we can afford to put into our various priorities, as like Commissioner White mentioned, the sidewalks and roads, and Commissioner Overman, affordable housing, which, of course, we just started funding it at $10 million a year, which is a quite substantial amount. And that, again, is our countywide dollars, not our unincorporated dollars. But I think you've outlined some of the needs, without parks, without any of this. And then in past workshops, you've put out some of the possible other taxes. I think the services tax, for instance, which I think the city of Tampa and I don't know about Plant City and Temple Terrace are charging additionally, but I think it's just I'm sorry that I don't have more I don't have suggestions about exactly what we do at this time, but I appreciate you really laying it out there in a really clear way so that we can know what we're facing and how we think about it moving forward. And I see Commissioner Myers has her hand up, so I'll call on Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just like to point out, first, let me thank Kevin Brickley for a thorough overview. It was very helpful to me coming on as a new commissioner, in addition to reading the budget over the weekend. But I just want to point out a couple of things that I'm sure that we all have heard, and our county administrator, Bonnie Wise, had shared with us, is that we have a deficit in the county where we have used funds for COVID. And if we can use our American Rescue dollars to replenish that, because in years to come, we're going to have to say sustainable. And we're going to need those dollars to help us when we want to do whatever we want to do in the county. The second thing I'd like to bring up is regarding our fire and rescue. I was shocked to hear that we are 27 stations behind, and we always say public safety is number one, is public safety. I do agree we need to look at how we could begin to, in the FY 2022 budget, to see if we can do more than 2 fire stations. I'm going to ask County Administrator Wise, would you give us a list? I mean, we can sit here as commissioners and come up with a wish list. We need money for this, we need this, we need that. But tell us, from your point of view, of all the money we have, so we can get to some of the top projects and focus on the top projects to keep the county sustainable. I know if we replenish that $70 to $80 million that we're running a deficit now, we won't be able to do everything that we have a wish list for as commissioners. But what would be the top items that we can get done in the next year's budget that we all can agree to disagree, but get the budget approved come September of this year? And so for me, those will be the most important, because if people are moving here, when we talk about the affordable housing, if we don't have a fire station where we're going to build a new development, it's not going to help them. You know, we're all really going to be sad. If you go out with the new developments, there's no fire stations in the areas. It's going to take a while. So all of those things to me would be very important as we go into the FY 2022 budget. And so I like to see public safety be number one, that we can address something that we are so far behind on. We cannot play catch up next year, but as years to come, we can put fire and rescue in every budget going forward. Thanks so much.
And with that, I think I don't believe I see any other commissioners at this time that would like to speak. So I don't know if you want to make any final remarks, Ms. Wise, and then we can adjourn.
I want to thank you all. We know that this is a lot of information. It's complex, and I appreciate the feedback that we were able to break it down for you. And we will be coming before you with some recommendations, with some options. As Kevin mentioned, the information on the American Rescue Plan, the guidance did just come out on Monday. So as we better understand it, we do have some meetings set up with each of you to go through that. We did give ourselves a little bit of time trying to estimate when the guidance would come out, and we'll have some recommendations. We spoke a lot about fire rescue today because it is important, and we do need to continue to talk about it, and we do need to begin to address that issue. So I thank you so much for your attention. And Kevin, thank you so much for going through that very well for us.
Thank you, Mr. Ricky. And with that, we will adjourn. So long, everyone.